Yay. Okay, hi Facebook Live. Okay. Ready? Ladies and gentlemen, Joel Gray.
There's so much good stuff back there.
You stick an actor in a prop closet, and that's what happens.
That was the most low-key thing I could do.
So, in case you just wandered in and you don't know who Joel Gray is, which I highly doubt, Joel Gray is a Golden Globe, an Oscar, and a Tony winner. You probably know him best as the MC in Cabaret. We are live on Periscope and on Facebook. You can go back and stream the videos later if you want. You don't have to because you're here, which is even better. And hello, everyone, wherever you're from. Hi.
Let me get my other hand.
Oh, oh yeah, they missed the joke. Oh well. So today we're here to discuss his memoir, Master of Ceremonies. I just had an ugly cry on an airplane reading it. If you haven't read it yet, it's wonderful. We have it up for sale upstairs, and after the discussion today, Joel will be signing copies. So I thought we would jump right in with probably my favorite section of the book, and probably the one that I would imagine you get asked the most about. You and Bob Fosse did not exactly hit it off at first for Cabaret.
What do you mean? Actually, I met him many, many years before when he had an act and he was doing it with Marianne Niles. And I think so, yeah. And I thought he was the greatest talent. He had no interest in meeting me. He was just like sloughed me off. And I always sort of watched him in amazement. And then I saw how, what a great movie star he became. And I saw him as Hal Joey at City Center. And we always, ran in the same circles. But he wanted to do his version of Cabaret, which is fair. As an auteur and a movie director, that was what you do. But he needed to throw out everything from the original production. And so I went out with the bathwater.
One of the things he told the film execs was it's either Joel Gray or me, and they said, well, then it's Joel Gray, right? So
yeah.
Were you a little too spontaneous for him because he's so rigid in his staging?
No, my instinct is that it was so unreasonable and irrational, all of it, that I think he wanted to play it himself. Whether he knew it or not, and he could have been great, because he came from a sort of a burlesque background, and he knew a lot about low life. And his nickname for me was Mr. Porno.
Well, when you talk about rehearsing it with Hal Prince, you were struggling to find the character, and you looked back at some of the comics that you worked with when you were younger and watched when you were younger, right? That's how you discovered the character.
Look back at the worst comic performer that I ever saw, that I thought, oh my God, the audience is loving him. He was the lowest, the cheapest, he was disgusting. And he was successful. And I never forgot, he was always sweating, and he had pancake makeup on, and he did everything but drop his pants when I was there. But I could not forget how awful he was and how successful at the same time. Of course, it was St. Louis, Missouri. Wasn't exactly a great white way. And when I was struggling with the role, because there was nothing, there were no lines. in the original script. I don't think even in the present script. It was all these songs, these great Kander and Ebb songs.
You didn't want to do it at first, right? When you got the script.
Yeah, I thought, here I'm waiting all these years to have a character on Broadway, an acting role that I would create of my own, and I didn't see where that was going to happen, because it was just these 5 great musical numbers. And so I had to do a lot of soul searching and looking for a character so that when he left the stage, I wanted the audience to wonder what he was doing in the back, where he lived, what sort of a full human being was he? Was he himself a Nazi? Was he all those things about his sexuality and what he made the girls do to him in order to get the job. I mean, I made an entire biography. And then one day, I think it was just before we went away to Boston, I said to Hal, I said, let me try something today. And I channeled this guy. I've never told anybody who he is or who he was, because he was sort of a little known. I was very discreet.
When you first went there in rehearsal, you were sort of...
I thought to myself, I'm not ready to go to Boston. And I thought, what if I were that guy in St. Louis doing this, who would do anything?
Yeah.
He would unzip his pants. I did that too.
But when you did that in rehearsal, you were sort of shocked. You shocked yourself, right? Until Hal came over and...
No, I thought, after I had done it, and all the company didn't know anything about what I had in my mind, but all of a sudden I was very different. I was lifting up the girls' skirts, and I was, putting my face in their breasts, and they were not ready. Which was correct. They were like, what is this? And I finished it, and I thought to myself, well, now you've done it. The most important people on Broadway are out there, and you've just shown them you're a bum. And I was panicked.
Well, what did Hal say?
And Hal came back, and he put his arm around me. He said, Jolie, that's it. True.
But some of that, when that same, those same guts, if you will, didn't go over so well with Bob Fosse, right? Because you went a little too far in the mud wrestling scene one day.
Well, he and I really challenged each other every single minute that we worked together. And I do believe that tension suited the period and the piece, and worked to our advantage. I was trying to show him what I knew. He was trying to show me what he knew, and how we could merge that was what ended up in the movie.
So one of the other really interesting things about Joel's book, if you haven't read it, you recently came out as a gay man, much later in life.
What? You said you weren't going to talk about that.
No. I said if it's in the book, it's okay to bring it up. Right?
You bet.
So throughout the book, you talk about experiences you had in your life where you sort of questioned your sexuality, men you were with, but you were married to a fellow thespian for quite a while, Joe Wilder.
24 years.
24 years, and your daughter is an actress, and you had 2 children with
Right.
him, right? So what was, so late in life, what made you finally decide to say it out loud?
seemed that so much of the world was changing so fast. And I thought that if I mean, everybody that was in my life that I knew who I was and knew who I was. And I thought if my saying who I am, if it turned out to be some young person who admired me and got strength from that idea, I thought if there's just one person, it's worth it.
Was it hard to finally do it?
No.
No. By then it just...
No, it's just, it's natural. I was nobody different.
Well, I feel like a turning point in your life in that journey was working on The Normal Heart, right? There's a beautiful chapter in the book about working on Normal Heart. If you don't know, Joel replaced the actor who played Ned Weeks in the original production down at the Public, right?
Very quickly after it opened.
Was he sick, the man who
Yeah.
played Ned? He passed away.
He had AIDS
Yeah.
from drug.
Right.
Yeah. Brad Davis was in Midnight Express. He was a wonderful actor. And he played Ned. And I remember seeing the show thinking, this is important. This is not just the show. This is life. It was happening and nobody was believing that it was happening, except the people who were there and knowing, seeing that they had names all over the theater of people who had passed away. And sometimes people would come in and look up, and that's how they found out that a friend of theirs was dead. So it was very, very intense. And I saw it, and I at the intermission, I was introduced to Larry Kramer, and I said, if anything ever comes about where there's a part in it or something for me to do, let me know. And I just thought it was, not really something that was real. And a couple of weeks later, Joe Papp called me. He said, Brad Davis is ill. He has to leave the show. Can you learn it in 2 weeks? Well, when you have to, you do. And changed my life and changed a lot of people's lives. It was one of the most powerful. It was why doing that was why I became an actor in the first place. To tell a story that changes the way people think and look and think about themselves and the world. And to have that kind of importance that the theater does have. I was 9 years old and I knew it. I knew that's what I wanted to do.
It was on borrowed time, right? Your first play. Wow. In the book, this really struck me. You said, when I told a friend familiar with the play that I was taking over the part, he thought it might be smart for me to find out whether kissing someone with AIDS was dangerous, since playing Ned would mean kissing the man who played Felix. I didn't know anything about the actor or have any reason to believe he was ill, but this was the height of AIDS paranoia, when people wondered about contracting the virus through the air or by shaking someone's hand. It was recommended that I contact Dr. Michael Gottlieb at UCLA, a leading AIDS researcher who also treated Rock Hudson. I asked him whether he thought there was any threat kissing a man about whom I had no previous knowledge. After a rather long silence, Dr. Gottlieb said, "Let me ask you something. Do you have to kiss him?" "Yes, it's crucial to the play." "Then I wouldn't do the play."
Oh, wow.
And you did it.
Actors, we take chances. I think if you don't have that spirit, I don't think you can ever get anywhere, deep. And I don't know, I think you have a sense about yourself of what's really dangerous. I knew that it was a lot of hysteria. People were really sitting at the dinner table and not touching the other person's food. Person they knew. Wasn't even a gay person. it was just, everybody was in a panic.
In here you call that your small act of disobedience. Was it disobedience to your mother because she hadn't accepted you when you
No.
acted out young?
No, it was disobedience to the doctor. Or whoever that might have been.
Yeah.
Don't tell me how to route my
So one of your other trials.
Nobody!
So are we going to get another Gypsy revival starring you? Look out, Imelda Stockton. Here comes Joel Gray.
Gangway World.
So one of your other triumphs was George M. You wrote in the book, and we were actually talking about this before you all came down, you were not a tap dancer, and you learned to do all of that for that show. Were you terrified?
Horrible.
Yeah?
Oh yeah. I mean, I have no idea why they hired me. No, seriously, because I was not a tapper, and George M. Cohan was the greatest tapper, and James Cagney was even better. And I don't know, I guess I just loved the character and loved that music, and I figured if Joe Layton, who's a great taskmaster, thinks I can learn, and I went to tap class with Bob Audie almost every day, then went to rehearsal, and never felt like I was on top of it. But you know what the thing is. When you're on the stage, you act as if.
You would rehearse the numbers downstairs under the stage.
I would go every single night before the performance, where nobody was, just a light and me, and I ran my opening sequence, which was very difficult because it wasn't just tapping. It was sort of like clog dancing too. And Patty knows.
Yeah, that's where I was headed with this. So you worked with Patty Mariano right there on George M., right?
She was my second sister after Bernadette Peters.
Indeed.
Ladies and gentlemen.
It was a great time. It was a great time. And this man never missed one tap. The entire, you never did. I would be back there even before I was Bernadette's in Josie. Oh, I was watching on the side as an acrobat, right? And every night, this man was brilliant. And I know he, he
Oh,
worked very
I never
hard.
was comfortable. But it was my job.
It didn't show.
That was funny, 'cause even though the show wasn't entirely a success on Broadway, you wound up taking it out across the road, even though you
And
weren't ever
it was-
comfortable.
It was a giant. I think I got more relaxed on the road. Yeah.
Because the audience were enjoying it more too, which probably helped you enjoy it more.
One of the good things, interesting things about George M. is that I think it's the only musical or play ever on Broadway, in the history of Broadway, where a president came to see it and made it close.
You didn't want a picture of
And he came backstage and I sensed it and I said, "Oh, please, no pictures." But of course I have the pictures. And it's the first time that a president has come and closed the show.
Unlike Obama with Hamilton, who only made the tickets harder to get.
And they didn't even need him.
No. So not only did you star as George M. for a long time on tour and on Broadway, you then went on to direct and star in it as well, right? Regionally.
Yeah, I directed both Cabaret and George M. in summer stock, and it was fun. And then I ended up directing a couple of years ago that first play that I was in when I was 9, called On Borrowed Time. and out at the Two River Playhouse. And it was the best experience. It was great.
Your father was an entertainer, Mickey Katz, right?
Yeah.
And he had some hit records, right?
Yeah. There were Yiddish versions of the hit songs of the day.
He wrote Yossel Yossel, right?
No.
No? I thought he did. What am I thinking of? You mentioned it in there.
Yes.
Maybe
He wrote.
Oh, you performed it,
And he wrote a
That's
special
right.
lyric. for
That's
me.
right.
There was a song that the Andrews sisters had a big record on called Joseph, Joseph. And this was the lyric. And this was what my father wrote for me as an opening number when I was 15 and had no idea how to sing or dance or do anything musical. When I was 8 days old, they named me Yossel. Oh, what a simcha, such a celebration. Oh, my mishpocha drank a toast, l'chaim, while I was suffering a minor operation. Later on, I went to kindergarten. I said, teacher, Yossel is my name. She said the name of Yossel, it sounds like a shlomosel. From Yossel, my name became Joel Gray.
So what's the whole story? How'd you get to Joel Gray?
Oh,
Oh, is that going on YouTube?
I was originally Joel K because I idolized Danny Kaye, and then when they realized that I was going to be going out there and being in the business, they said you can't have that name. And I was working with a writer, and I said we have to give him a name because we're going to put it up on the marquee at the Mocambo in a few days. So he said, "Olé, Joel Gray."
And it stuck. And it worked. So what?
He says, "I like the look of the E here and the E here."
So one of the really other interesting things in here that you talk about is going back to cabaret years later in a revival as the MC. And it seemed quite difficult for you the way you talk about it. You had some struggles with your voice right before it opened out of town. But then besides that, you talk about it just being a sort of a different experience, that it was hard to go out and be that MC that they wanted because you had changed. And so
I don't think that was it. I don't think that was necessarily the struggle. The struggle was that we were in a gigantic theater that was not cohesive with the intimacy of the show. And Frank Rich didn't like it. All the things that were liked, and Hal directed it again, but he didn't like it.
did you regret doing the revival?
Never.
No. Is there any show that you really truly regret doing? I mean, I do know that there was it Mask out at Jones Beach? You took me.
Oh. What was that called?
I think it was Mask. Or
No.
something.
It was one of the worst shows I've ever been in. It was dreadful, and after it, we went out to Jones Beach to the Marine Theater. Louis Armstrong was the draw, and they had a book show about pirates, and June Taylor was the choreographer. It was so horrible. And we did it every night, and I came home finally, and I said to my wife, if this is what I've worked for all my life, I can't do it anymore. And I was ready to quit. A few days later, telephone, Jolie? Yeah. Hal? Yeah. What's the matter? What's the matter? I don't know. I'm just sort of looking under. Oh, well, forget it, because doing a new show. Remember I told you about it at Downey's? Yeah, that's about Nazi Germany. And I think there's a good part in it for you. And that was it.
And over the years, there were big successes and there were not so big successes. Grand Tour closed out of town, right? Did that come in? Or
No, it closed on Broadway.
It closed on Broadway. And even though it
But we
yeah.
didn't end up on
Joe Allen.
Joe Allen's
Not
wall.
Good Time Charlie, huh?
No,
That's got such a great score and it's so forgotten.
they both do.
Yeah, they really do.
They were not good shows. It was just timing for them was wrong. And Richard Nixon didn't even see them.
If you don't know, Good Time Charlie is, in a way, it's sort of St. Joan, the musical. So, just that, you sort of go, oh, okay. But then you hear this lovely score by Larry Grossman, who, unfortunately, most of his shows were flops, besides Snoopy, I guess. But all the scores are really lovely, and that one is special. Was that the first time you worked with Anne Rankin?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you went on to work with her in Chicago. But you didn't really want to do that at first.
No. It was originally conceived as a big lumbering dork. And not too smart.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't know that I can do that. I have to figure out some other way that Amos makes sense. And so Walter and Annie and I talked and said, the reason that he does what he does is that he loves her unconditionally. And so it's out of his total humanness. And he's not a dope. He's not a dolt. He's not a jerk. He's the only person actually in that, the way we played it, who had any, genuine.
Yeah. And that's very clear in the survival, too. I think every time I see it, it always strikes me that Amos is sort of the heart of the show. The
But he wasn't
Yeah.
when Fosse did it.
Yeah.
I hated it. No, it wasn't because of... No. Most people did not like it. And what Annie and Walter did was so excellent. Never worked in a show where every single number practically stopped the show every night. It was very heady. I was standing backstage at Encores for the first night with Jimmy Naughton, and the opening number finishes, and we're standing there saying, "Ooh, good hand." Still a good hand. They're stopping the show. The opening number. And every number after that practically stopped the show.
It's still running. The transcript's still running. It gets no sign of stopping.
Such a good show.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. Yeah. So your favorite role, is it the MC? Not the one you're most proud of, but the one you had the most fun working on.
I don't think I had fun working on it. I think it was really hard. And the same thing with the Normal Heart. But they were so satisfying. And you knew you were doing the right thing. And you knew where you were in the right business. And that you were glad you were an actor.
On that note, I think we should let you guys ask some questions. Sure?
They say the joy of writing is having wit.
Can you hear me?
Looking back on
Can you speak up just a little bit?
so something wrong.
No, it's okay, or I can just repeat it once you say it.
They say the joy of writing is having wit. looking back on a piece that you've written was well received. But the process of writing is very painful and awkward and difficult. Is that true of performing?
Did you hear that? They say the joy of writing is
Having written.
You're
is
talking
having
about-
written. And
Talk about this.
no, he's saying, do you find that similar with acting? That how do I'm failing at phrasing this.
The task of writing is really arduous and awkward and not fun, but having written is the joy of it. Is it the same with acting? That
Oh, you mean like closing night, you're happy?
yeah.
Yeah. Good one.
Anyone else? No? Oh.
Number one, thank you for coming. Was there ever a moment you felt like you just couldn't keep doing this, couldn't keep going on? I know you kind of mentioned it a little earlier, like stop.
Was there ever a moment that you thought you couldn't keep going, that you couldn't keep doing this?
Oh, yeah, at Mardi Gras.
Out
Jones
Jones Beach, that's what it was
Yeah,
called.
that was when I was quitting.
And what made you then, was it?
I got a job.
Yeah.
A pretty good job.
There must have been a hard time too, because Jo wanted to act, and she did at times, but she kind of gave that up for the sake of your marriage, right?
Yeah.
And that must have put some difficult strains on things sometimes.
Yeah. But, ultimately she acknowledged that she did the right thing.
So you mentioned that the film of Cabaret and the Broadway production were very different stories, and Fosse had this whole idea of doing it completely different. Did you ever make a peace with him doing a different version of the show when you were filming it, or with hindsight you can go, okay, they're completely different, or was it just like a battle the whole time and you didn't even realize it was going to be such a great film until it was finally, when you finally saw it and you got
Good
the
question.
reception?
The very first notion I had that it could be a great film was when I read the script. And he had a lot of work done with Jay Bresnell on restructuring the whole show for a film, because he was so wanting to be an important filmmaker. And he was. I mean, that movie, with all of whatever he and I went through, is genius. His work is supreme. I never doubted that. But I think once we started to shoot, we all went into the dailies to look at what was first up there, and you knew it was magic, and that he knew what he was doing, and that whatever tension and how we challenged each other came to good. I don't think he would say that necessarily. He never really acknowledged it.
I've been following you since I was a really small child. My grandfather was a theater artist, and my mother was an opera singer, so my mother and I, we really loved these things, since the beginning of time. But sometimes I go to off-Broadway shows, and you see people like you from the old theater, or from the 80s, 70s, 60s, doing dry theater, off-Broadway or off-Broadway, like James Earl Jones was recently in a show, and the guy from the Waltons was in a piece recently.
Richard Thomas.
Yes, do you see yourself doing an off-Broadway show in the future?
I've done 3 or 4.
I missed it.
Yeah, first of all, the Normal Heart was off Broadway. And then I directed it later, 25 years later, when it was easier for an audience to take. And somehow the fact that it wasn't crawling around their neck while they were watching it, it just made it very difficult. But everybody all of a sudden wanted to understand it, wanted to celebrate Larry Kramer.
It's a terrific production. Really wonderful. Did anybody else see that? The Normal Heart Revival? Only you? That's it? Oh, okay. All right. So lovely. Anyone else have a question?
What draws you to off-kilter parts like Herringbone and Marco Polo? You always have this little quirky strangeness in them.
I'm a strange guy.
That's what worries me.
I really am. I look sort of ordinary. You know? But I'm weird. I did a play at the Roundabout called Give Me Your Answer Due by Brian Friel, which was a great experience. Kate Burton and John Glover, and it was great company. And Marco Polo sings a solo, which is a John Guare play. Nobody understood it, but I loved it, and we loved it, and it was fascinating. Madeline Kahn, Sigourney Weaver. It was quite a cast.
Anne Jackson.
Anne Bancroft. And then, I guess the reason that I went into the theater was because when I was 9, I somehow got a part in this play called On Borrowed Time. And I was in an atmosphere of adult actors. And if I learned my lines, and if I did what I was told, and if I was quiet in the wings, I was worthy. I was a person. And they actually, I think, took the British habit of calling everybody in the cast by Mr. or Mrs. And I was Mr. Katz. And I had respect. And I knew that the words were sacred. You never changed a line. You never changed blocking. You never did anything except respect what the director said, what the playwright wrote. And I thought that that sense of commitment to making something excellent was what I wanted. And to be a part. I never thought I would end up being the lead in anything. I thought I was going to be an actor in stock or in repertory, where I'd play a big part one week, and later on I would play a much smaller part. That was what I was started, and that's always stuck with me. And therefore, this fall, I'm going to do the Cherry Orchard at the Roundabout.
What's next?
With a bunch of wonderful actors.
And a
And a
wonderful
play,
playwright.
and a play that I care about.
And it's Stephen Karam's adaptation, right?
It is.
He's
How do you
wonderful.
know that?
Well, they announced the production, but I don't think they announced the full I don't think they announced any casting yet. But they did announce the production.
And that he had written.
Yeah.
And you saw that. You're a playwright.
I am, yeah.
That's it.
And I'm a big Stephen Karam fan, who will be here in 2 weeks with the cast of The Humans discussing the play. So, we'll do one more question before we head upstairs. Oh no, so many hands. All right, we'll do 2 more.
So,
Speak up.
you're
Stand up.
Sing out, Louise.
beautiful. You're beautiful to watch, and you always have been. And I think that one of the things that I hear the most from actors that I work with is how difficult it is to take care of their instrument and maintain and know the right things. And I look at you, and you're all the things that they are all trying to be. Compelling, and you appear effortless. How have you learned over the years, and how have you cared for yourself over the years to be able to do your job continuously and be ready for something like the Cherry Orchard or anything that you want to do as it comes up?
It's all struggle. Nothing so far has ever been easy. Or maybe I make it hard. I don't know. But nothing comes without pay. And then it's worth it. Even if it doesn't succeed, if you've done it and you love the other players and you love the play, you know, it's totally satisfying.
One more, and then we'll head up.
Hi, I was wondering if you had any advice. I struggle with trying to make the right choice and all of that, like how to know and have confidence in choices you made and really commit to it and not be wishy-washy about it.
How do you, she struggles to commit to choices and have the confidence to commit to big choices. How do you find that confidence and how do you find those guts to go there?
I think you have to want it more than anything. To want to be a part of the theater and to take those chances and to risk looking like a jerk. And you often do in rehearsal. But you have to be able to, you know, pop back to continue. And if you have that, I have to do this. I am committed. I am going to be an actor, and I'm going to do it as hard as it is, or as upsetting as it is, or as embarrassing as it is. I'm going to do it. And if you don't feel that way, you're in the wrong business.
I was going to find that Ruth Gordon quote. Do you recall it? You said Ruth Gordon said something to you on the street. Do you recall it?
Once you're an artist, you're always an artist.
And on that note, thank you. So, if you guys could head upstairs, there's that big wooden table. If you could form a line there, we'll be up in just a few minutes to do a signing of the book. Thank you, Facebook and Periscope. Bye.